Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good evening, listeners. Good afternoon to some in the US. I think late evening. Just doing a very short recording um, to our esteemed members of this UDP group, to who will watch it in due course. My greetings to all of you, and we are sending our peace and blessings and love, uh, to Gambians everywhere and to friends of the Gambia. Um, we are. I'm just going to talk about briefly why fraud and electoral fraud, for that matter, has been the key to the presidency of President Yaya AJJ Jammeh. I will speak, I think, 2 to 3 minutes in English, and then I will try to say something else in Mandinka. We have been investigating continuously why Yaya Jammeh has been so sensitive. So his reaction has been very violent during the demand for electoral reforms. And during that investigation, some of the findings from former Green Boys, even during Baba Job's time, when he was at the APRC, when he used to manage the Green Youths, to now, how President Yaya Jammeh has managed to sort of steal the elections consecutively. Some of the findings are very simple and basic, but it means that he does his homework. This is why the short message I wrote is to say that President Jammeh actually knows that he is unpopular among Gambians. Therefore, he has to pre-plan his electoral victory well before the elections. And the most surest way for him to sort of win any election is to be able to decide the outcome well before the voting. Because most of our findings and most of the former IEC officers and former APRC people who used to sort of help him commit the frauds actually says that the actual voting process, the day of the voting, there is hardly any sort of fraud, through the sorry. Okay, I'll push it back, but I will push it a little bit away. Maybe I don't want you to see my gray hair. I'm getting to that age bracket now. So the sorest way he decides how he wins any elections is for him to gauge his popularity, and Yaya Jammeh knows he's not popular. I think that's the area where he does not deceive himself. He knows he's not popular. So if you know you are not popular, and you have a lot of cash, and you have a population, most of whom don't know the value of their votes, they actually don't have that nationalistic instinct to say, at no cost would I sell my vote, or will I abstain from voting. And then you have a group within the APRC, the Green Youths, who do what simply, I'll just give a rundown from a former Green Youth who used to be a member of this group. They do, the simple thing is that multiple and triple registration. What he's saying, that he says they are recruited. Most of them are, very young school leavers. You will be promised a job after the election, and then you'll be given a bit of cash incentive. And you'll be taken, for example, he says he was registered in Fajikunda and Brikama. That is during the first elections. And then in 2001, this is just one single individual giving his personal account. We have multiple of them who are coming forward now. He said when Baba Job came to take over the Green Youths, then he was transported to Jara. So it means you are registered in Fajikunda, and Brikama, and then in Jara. That was the election Kemseng had to lose. So the simple basic thing that the IEC helps to do with Yaya Jammeh is to help register people in areas that Jammeh knows he will win the election if the process goes according to the proper protocols, the proper methods. So, for example, in Brikama town itself, they know that the natives of Brikama will not vote for him, the vast majority. So they will gauge the percentage that he believes that he will lose the election by. And the gentleman tells me that he knows that 75% of people who are should I say Brikamarian or or BRICS people will vote against him. He says then he will artificially import about 50% of people from different areas to make sure they are registered in Brikama. So any election result will now sort of cancel out the huge opposition votes. So Jammeh might win Brikama by a smaller percentage, but at least a win is a win. Then you will have villages like Gunjur, where also they will import people to register there, Brufut, and key area is Lameng, where it's mixed, and due to the mixed nature of it, it is difficult for those natives to discover that there are a lot of imported people who are registering in multiple registration. And then this young man is saying that the other method that he used is also another simple technique, i.e. to use simple people to come around to just cajole people to get their voters cards away from them with a small amount. He says that most of us think that they pay people $3,000 or higher. He said, but as small as 100 and 150 usually gets people's voters cards away from them. That is opposition supporters. So whilst he is increasing his artificial imported, just like the way he does his rallies. So when we see his rallies, he's transporting people from localities to travel with him. The same method is used in voting during the registration process and in the voting process. This is why I said this video is not going to be too long, so that people can actually see that all the opposition parties are planning to go to elections. The reasons for that is the fact that a lot of the people are now conscious of the need to peacefully remove him. If not, those vying for violence or to go after him by any method will do that. We cannot stop them. Therefore, a lot of Gambians realize that they have to vote. And this is why the campaign for voters card is absolutely significant. We cannot underestimate it if we are going to go to election. But the paramount thing after gathering a lot of this information is for the opposition to actually demand from the IEC simple things, what this young man is saying. Voters, the verification of the vote register. Without that, Jammeh will do anything, because he says one person will be voting in Fajikunda, a vehicle waits for them after they vote, and usually he says they don't actually queue. As soon as they are brought in with the vans, some meters away from the voting pool or center, they will walk through straight. The guys there usually, make them do their thing quicker so that they can jump into the van and go and vote in different centers. So what we see as Jammeh moving with crowds, the same method he used to move voters. So the opposition parties, instead of fighting, I think the coalition efforts talks are important, but I believe whatever method that the coalition method that people are talking about, if the vetting of the vote register, number one, he says serial numbers had to be checked. Two, he said each name had to match a photo ID. Since we don't have a biometric system, we verify the serial numbers, verify the names to the photo IDs. He said that the multiple names that will be appearing, if the photos are matching, all those names must be crossed out. It means that one person registering at 3 different centers, if you cross that person out, it means he's having just 1 vote. So the likelihood of Jammeh winning will be very slim, because the reality is that a lot of people do try to vote against him, but number one, they buy votes, voters cards. Smaller amounts, people handing their votes, their voters card, nullified. And this young man further saying that some of those voters cards are actually taken to the IEC and clowned. So somebody else can actually be using your voters card that they have bought. So he's not using very complicated method to commit the fraud. He's using very simple methods. But because people overlook those methods, we were looking at the fact that maybe they are stuffing the ballots with votes, because this is what they're saying, but most of the time this is not true, actually. So he is actually stealing the election during the registration process, and on the day of the voting by transporting physical people. It doesn't mean they just open the ballot. That does not happen, because a lot of independent people, even those in diaspora, can swear that those things don't happen. What happens is the transportation of physical people to vote at different centers, especially key opposition stronghold, to bring people there, vote them. Then we are not even talking about the foreigners that come from Casamas, that come from some of the Senegalese borders, or that come from Mauritania. Some of these are Gambians, but there are some non-Gambians that come along too. They are willing to pay for that, for those people to come. So the opposition, the opposition have to, they have to. The reason why Solo Sundance group had to be brutalized was because the illegitimacy of Jammeh has actually been exposed. That is the electoral fraud. If there should be a serious electoral reform, hands down, Jammeh will lose. Hands down, he will lose. Because most of his key voters are women. A lot of men either will not vote for him. If they do, most of them will vote against him. But the women groups that they create, according to this former July 22nd guy, are also one of his key strengths. But he said over the years that has been dwindling. This is why they had to invest in multiple registration of people. The foreign voters, which we were actually banging on and focusing highly on, is not actually up to 50,000. If up to 50,000 people. So considering the amount of people that are actually move around through the multiple polling stations, this is where his key strengths and his key electoral fraud is based. So actually our president, the key reason why Jammeh is always angry with us Gambians, he's always abusing us. And this is nothing to do with him singling out Mandinkas. This is all of us, actually. Wherever he goes, he dislikes us, because he knows that deep down, nobody likes his actual behavior or his governance style. So he has to be violent, and he knows that we don't appreciate the way he operates. Sadly, it is our own Gambian brothers who are making him run this fraud. The chiefs are involved, the alcalos are involved, and some key councillors within the local government apparatus also help him do this, with a lot of frustrated and stranded sort of Gambian youths who are from high school or interested to go to further education. They are co-opted. So who should we blame for sort of people not having that nationalistic pride to say, my vote is my vote? Because I was having a discussion with a guy from Senegal, and he was saying, the Senegalese will always say, Amnen Shin Karta. And no, it's very difficult for you to deceive them with their votes. But why is it so easy for us Gambians to be deceived with our votes? The system is fraudulent. But imagine we have one candidate, and the opposition parties do their campaign day and night, with all the mobilization of voters, moving them around, and most of his technique, if hugely, the people decided to vote for that single opposition candidate, I think Jammeh can still lose. However, that's a big ask, it seems. But today my talk is not to dwell on that. It's just to tell people that we start talking to our brothers. These are young youths who Yankuba Kole and co would have already been preparing, would have been coaxing, would have been, how are we going to move them around. With this social media now, any of these youths who break ranks should come up and, expose the scheme, expose who and who is involved. We have Facebook. Let's make good use of it. Let's not just make it for entertainment. Let's make it for educating and exposing this idiot. Because really, Jammeh is taking us for a ride. And according to this youth, who was a very key figure in their ranks, he says that, they use two techniques, fear and inducement. If inducement doesn't work, they will resort to threats. So most of these youths either will go for the inducement or will fall for the fear. So it's like the carrot and the stick. But the job is now ours. Let's use the social media to educate these people and to make sure they understand that really the Gambia is in their hands. The reason why most of the time I talk negatively against the elites, because I believe that the elites have neglected. They are the ones who are supposed to part these channels that some of us are forced to come on now. They should have created and given us that nationalistic pride for us to value the Gambia more than anything, for us to value the need for us to be citizens that are counted and aware. If somebody like Jammeh not to come and be able to use us, it's a of our educational system. A youth who graduated from grade 12 to be co-opted and become a lamb to the slaughter.